right, he says the recording's in progress. So that means we're back here with another edition of Make City Make Spence. We are recording this on Tuesday, June the 8th, 2025 year of our Lord. And we're covering all things Detroit City FC, women's, men's, and second men's. Garret Comet's here, and not alone, as always. Joining me tonight, the engineering brain of the majors, Detroit, Adam Hernandez, the architect of Words About Shapes Patreon, lover of all things cat, Sean Spence. Gentlemen, as always, good
Yo,
evening. Looking forward to getting talking all things city, even if it's going to hurt.
I mean, yeah. Yes. I
Sounded
have a
like
very
you're
I have like a whisper of some other thing coming through my headphones, and I can't figure out if it's on my end or
Let me
not.
see.
I'm looking at every tab on me like, okay, no, not that one. Okay, no, not that one. Let's see.
I've cut some volume down on my tablet here
Yeah, I'm not sure.
and the TV, so hopefully that
The
does it on my end.
so I've been playing like a multiplayer game of Baldur's Gate 3 with two guys that I had like a long but that I've played multiple real D&D campaigns with, and we are really close to the end of the game. And one of the guys will plays it like on a laptop in a room with his wife, and she watches the TV really loud. So what is coming through my headphones the whole time we're playing a lot of times is like Love Island, like or um a murder mystery, um it's really weird. It makes it like it's so jarring because Baldur's Gate is so enveloping, and then you're like constantly you've got this constant reminder that you're not really there. You're here in a much worse place. So yeah. Did I
That
say
might
much
be it.
worse place? What I meant was a different place.
Our our friends in the group, our friends in one of our group chats that are loving Love Island will probably shudder or have their like, I'm not hearing this. No, I've never watched Love Island, so. But that being said, I don't want to watch Love Island. So
Yeah, I have watched quite a bit of it. For I have to say that certain reality shows are like kind of rucking up at the human zoo. Um, and it's entertaining to like the Real Housewives is a huge hit based on hate watching, right? Because they're just like they're rich, like rich beyond dreams of avarice in general, like so rich that they are completely disconnected from any real like difficulty, and so everyone has to have difficulty in their life. So they create difficulty out of nothing constantly, and it's kind of amazing. Uh, the Love Island's a different thing. It's like being a psychic who is listening in to like every idiotic conversation going on in a bar at like 12:30 at night, um for weeks on end. um and it's a great show to watch without watching, like if you're reading a book and then you just sort of look up every time there's an explosion, okay, so and so is upset that you know whatever. um but it's these are shows that are designed not to really watch, um and they succeed at that. So anyway, so it's enough of me about reality TV. I think we have something to kind of celebrate right now, despite the overall tone of the weekend being like, you know, uh, right in line with the taking a dump on freedom vibe that we were getting from our federal government.
yeah, and you know what? It would have been definitely fully in that vibe citywide, Detroit citywide, had we recorded on our usual Monday date. But because we're recording tonight, we have new joyous news that came in last night. And that was Detroit City FC's two side, coached by Brad Dunwell, had the UPSL Midwest East Conference final. Believe I'm pronouncing that right in that order correctly.
Yeah.
Um, took place yesterday at U of D Mercy, where the two teams' home matches were this past season in the regular season. A hard fought contest, probably the most coverage I think in the moment that I've seen the club do this season.
Hmm.
Um, and a very late dramatic goal off a corner sees Brad Dunwell's lads bring home a trophy. I think Adam, I want to start with you on this. You've seen the two team in person. We talked about it, I think, last week, and you also witnessed a lot of the two team, and even Brad Dunwell himself play at the friendly against Santos Laguna. Considering that this is what the second year of this two side of Detroit City FC two in UPSL form, the growth that this team had this from year to year and to where they're at now, Midwest East Conference champs.
I don't know if you could really categorize it as growth. I think it was a change in direction what they wanted to do with the two team because I don't kind of by the sound of it from last year, it sounded like things were just kind of thrown together. I mean, based on how the announcement was made, based how I mean it sounds like how UPSL was kind of operating and the quick draw, oh yeah, welcome Detroit City FC to UPSL, and it sounded like the club was
Wait, we're
like
in
what?
this?
Wait, we're
Yeah.
we're we're
Yeah.
in it? Okay, okay. I guess
Sure.
I guess we better get a team together, which it sounds like. I mean, last year it sounds like it was mostly academy kids, where this year, um, it's guys who are like it's like in baseball, they're guys who are, would you would find them, maybe AAA is the equivalent here. They're guys who are on the cusp of being professional, I guess, which is again, it's a far cry from what we saw last year with this team, a bunch of young kids who were going up against, pro-am type players who were, looking to get picked up by some type of professional team, whether it be locally or, out of state or whatever. Um, and I think that's what we ultimately saw this year was a team with guys who are probably looking to scratch the surface when it comes to a professional career of some sort. And it showed. I mean, this team was when I saw them play against Detroit Metro FC, they were dominating them. I mean, it wasn't even close. They ran them off the pitch, and I heard that Detroit Metro FC team was going to be one of the bigger tests, which it didn't ultimately come to be. Um, and then obviously they made their way through the season, playing very, very well. I thought that the guys who were subbing in during that friendly looked good. And then it all paid off for them at the end here, and they got themselves a trophy. And now they're going to the national tournament now, where they will play Chicago Nation FC on either July 12th or the 13th.
Hmm.
So that would be this weekend. I'm not quite sure what day it'll be. Like I said, it'll be either the 12th or 13th. Chicago Nation FC. I don't know if they're playing here or if they're playing in Chicago or what, but like I said, it was a change in direction. It seemed like with this team, and it was a fun team to watch. They have been a fun team to watch. Yeah, I wish they would have gotten more recognition, especially from the club, but. I'm sure they're going to get a little bit of it now moving forward, especially
Right.
heading into the weekend. So,
Well,
again,
yeah, I think that's probably just a resources thing, right? I mean, the club just
sure.
doesn't like, there's grinding the gears just to get the women's promo stuff out sometimes.
Mhm.
Um, and yeah, so there's just not enough people. I'm sure they will get some hype now that they're going to like the
Yeah,
national tournament. or like it's basically the same as what the women just played in. It's the play-in, it's the regional tournament that leads to
Yes.
the national tournament.
Yes.
Um, so they're a couple games away from going to the Final Four, kind of thing.
Yep. Yep. There's a round of 32, which is what they're in right now.
Oh, okay.
And then, they go to the 16 and then the quarterfinals, and then the Final Four is going to be August 8th through the 10th. And I'm not
Okay.
quite sure where that's going to be at, but
Okay. So they do like a single site Final Four. Okay,
I'm
cool.
I'm guessing that's what it is. I mean, they've got a really nice bracket on the UPSL website that
Yeah, I haven't looked it up.
that
That's
that
cool.
that that has it listed. I'm trying to see some of these teams if I you know know any of them or if there's anything familiar. I mean, I'm sure if you guys look at it, something might is probably going to stand out to you guys. But
I got one
looking at,
shiny moment stuck in my head now because of this.
but I don't recognize any of these other teams. But I mean, we know how UPSL is. We know how large it is. It's
Right.
it's like NPSL in a sense too, where there's just a shit ton of teams, or USL too, where it's a summer league, so there's teams all over the country, and it's cool. I mean, it's very cool to see them be able to go to this. Again, Brad Dunwell seems to have done a very good job um, getting this team together, getting them ready to play. And again, I could only assume he's seeing some of the challenges that Dwayne might be facing, because these aren't all like pro am type of players. I mean, some of them are college players as
Right.
well. So I could only imagine the challenges that he's facing as a coach. Having to maneuver his way through that pro am landscape that is present, that I'm sure Trevor had to deal with that, so, when he came in 2019 to some extent, and with
Right. Well, I
Furman,
think, yeah,
so
I think that what you're seeing in this roster probably is a combination of Brad. Um, I mean, it seems like he's not a guy who wants to come in here and be a coach for 15 years. He wants
mhm.
to be a manager. Um, so taking over a team and doing the talent evaluation for it and setting it up tactically
Yeah,
and running it out, like that's what he's doing.
that's a
And
good point, Sean.
he's been
That's a good point.
he's been very good, um, in my estimation. And I wouldn't be surprised to see him, talked about in a couple years as like a USL League One, like you know,
Coach or
like a
manager.
manager, like a guy who could
Yeah,
get a shot.
yeah.
Um, uh, because I think he's really well thought of. And frankly, he was a guy who's, if he was just a little like a larger dude, would still be playing, right? I
Mhm.
mean, it's
Yeah.
just the fact that you could knock him over that uh that kind of like that ended his career. Like, well, okay, you can knock him over and well, that's it. You can knock him over. So he had to like, play around that, and that's very difficult in a league full of dudes who, delight in knocking people over.
Mhm.
So um yeah, I think it's really promising from him, and I think it's an interesting, like you talk about this hybrid approach. This is something that, like, I used to nerd out when I worked for City, and Trevor and I would sit around and talk about stuff. This is the kind of stuff we'd talk about, like how do you get the most out of a pool? Like you really want to get whatever talent is in the Detroit area or in Southeast Michigan. You want to like give that every chance to thrive, right? And so I think that's the idea of the two team is like, look, let's give everybody, let's get together a really credible group, and maybe somebody makes a breakthrough, but like let's not make that the priority. Let's not select the players based on how good we think they might be. Let's actually make it another competitive side, not like a youth side. And we're gonna, it's just the kind of the guys that are on the cusp are scrapping to get to that next level to, and who really are good players and who understand that, it's the particularness of football means that you just got to find a coach who's looking for something that you do. Um, and so, it's super frustrating um, as a player to have to wait to find that guy when you feel like you've got it, right? And that's the kind of strivers I think that this team is made up of, and I think that's incredibly cool in my view.
Yeah.
Um, so kudos to the whole group uh, who are putting this team together, and let's see. I know that like there's a bunch of guys on this roster who are guys that um, guys that other players describe as ballers, right?
Hmm.
It's like there's a real streets will remember vibe on the about the Detroit City 2 side. So if you're an aspiring hipster, now's your chance. Um, get in there, uh, follow the team. I haven't been following it closely. I'm excited for them, but the two side is something I kind of tend to view from like 10,000 feet. Um, it's project. But like I say, I think the shape of the project is really interesting this year, and I think Brad has got a bright future ahead of him on the sideline.
Hell yeah, brothers. Hell yeah. Um, so we talked about excitement. We talked about bright future. All right, we got to start the descent. Um, let's go.
It gets
Let's
shitty.
go. Yeah, let's go with the painful but commiserations. USLW League Central Conference semifinals, Friday, 4th of July. 10:30 a.m. kickoff in Pittsburgh at Highmark Stadium.
Mm.
Great Lakes Division champion winners Detroit City FC taking on Valley Division winners Kings Hammer SC of Covington, Kentucky. Match filmed at Highmark Stadium, seemed to be broadcasted studio-wise. Michigan Soccer Network, National Soccer Network. Seemed like it brought back the ghost of Mike Kuju, considering that a second stream link had to be created about 25 minutes into the match or whatever it was. And the first half, which was kind of a Kings Hammer SC one-sidedness. Two goals scored in about the first 20 minutes or so. Really struggling to get the ball out and create chances. However, adjustments were made. And in the second half, Troy City FC got into the game, got into the match, hit the net 3 times, made the net 3 times. Unfortunately, two of those were called offsides. And despite the hard efforts and the hard fought valiantness to come back into this match, Kings Hammer 2, Detroit City FC 1, the women's season comes to a close, but can't say they went down without a fight because the fight and the effort was definitely there. Sean Spence, on to you as we, you know, remember the season that was.
Yeah, I'm not going to really do a lot in particular on the match because it was very difficult watch. Pretty much the theme of the weekend in the playoffs was that the defenses in the USLW are very good. Um, there was a lot of low scoring football. And it wasn't because teams weren't attacking. It was just, really every match I watched was were really solid, well organized defenses, and um, and teams that were kind of tactically intelligent, like um, really. And so the story of our match was that um, Samantha Urbach like was on fire the first half an hour and scored like an absolute golazo to give them the lead, which tipped us a little bit into crazy attacking mode, which is something this team did tend to get stuck into. Like we don't trail much, and they tend to kind of overreact to it, and I felt like we did a little bit. And then the second goal really killed us because they were they were very secure defensively, and came close to shutting out Aurora in the final, in the or the what is it, conference final? Yeah, conference final.
Yep.
Um,
Late
and
moment of Aurora magic in that one, like
right,
88th minute.
right, uh, late goal. Um, and there was that way. It was that way, like right across the North Carolina Courage, who were the national champs. They advanced on penalties after a scoreless draw. I think the team from South Carolina that's in the Final Four, I think they won the final 1-0. They may have won I think they won both their matches 1-0. Like a lot of, you know, um, I'm kind of, I don't know. I'm thinking about that, and I'm thinking about what happened to our team, which is that what rolled out there. Like we've had a kind of a steady group that's been together for several years, really. Talking about like um, Hannah and Tatiana and Kayla and Drew, um, and
Man to Brennan even now.
Amanda Britton. Yeah, Acadia Murphy really has been around she's been here since the Sam days, I think. So like we've got this spine of players that have been around forever, and that spine um was also part of that kind of pretty average team um the first year of Dave's uh managerial
23.
time, right? So it's like basically what I'm saying is that when we were exceptional last year and at times this year, that exceptional level was triggered by the presence of players who attackers who play at an exceptional level. um, and I'm talking about Sophia Romine, and last year I'm talking about Lily Jekyll and Sophia Romine, um, and Aubrey Chiampa. And I'm probably forgetting somebody.
Even
Um,
Kate Childers in the midfield, which allowed, the
right.
engine.
What and so this what happened is that the Sophia's signed a pro contract, and she's got to protect herself. She may be you know flying over there soon. I don't know. I don't know what her timeline is like, but she wasn't available for this very big match. And Lily got the 10 shirt, played the first half of the first match, and we didn't see her again. She played youth group football all summer. So that's a thing that I'm sure that Danny Evans is turning over in her mind, because I think that it's safe to say that absent something absolutely bananas happening, that we've seen the end of Dave Dwayhe's managerial career for Detroit City at this time. I think he's working. He's about to. I think he does work full time for the club now, and he is. I think Danny is going to take over the women's side. When like going forward. And I think this is a transition that they've been working on for 2 years, right? Like this is not sudden, or Dave's not like being fired. Like he was like, okay, well, we'll see how far this goes, but whenever we lose, that's my last one, I think. And so
Dave was never the long-term guy, right,
right, yeah, he
Sean?
was
Yeah.
like uh, you know, to be candid, I think that what happened when they decided to move on from Sam is that they interviewed a few women, um, and the ones that were really qualified were not impressed by um, what they were going to be asked to do. They're like, look, I need a full time job. you know, uh, and so what the option they decided to go for was, there's Danny, and she was she was, she's ambitious and gifted and extremely good. Like you have this kind of homegrown star in the making. So, but there's a thing about badges, and it's harder for women to get badges in U.S. soccer, or it has been traditionally. And so, Dave has been a caretaker essentially um, for a while, and yeah, I don't expect. What I'm saying is, I don't expect there to be it to come out like we're going to come out next year and be thugs and who don't give a fuck about each other. It's not gonna like the culture is going to stay the culture. And they've got a good thing going. I really do think that um looking around the league, it looks like the frothy attacking talent tends to get scooped off to go do other things, higher profile things, while the level of the defense stays pretty high. Um, and that was certainly the case with us. I mean, Ella uh, Karolak would have been considered kind of a ringer for us. Like she played with us and then went off and played in like a Seattle Rain development thing last year. Like they recruited her to go play out in
Yes.
Washington State. So, she's a high level player. She's one of those players, right? She's one of the players that would get taken away from us at the end of the season. Um, and so having her the whole time, like really alongside, like that meant that Acadia had a steady partner and a partner that meshed with her super well. And I really hope that pairing comes back next year because um, I think they were exceptional. Um, you know, I am a big fan of Tatiana Mason. I tend to, she's the kind of player I like. I like, you know, clever, hard thinking, deep lying playmakers, and that's just kind of what she is. So, uh, you know, I like the way she plays. Um, and then Kayla Addison is a woman who looks to me like she could play until she's maybe 40, like at this level. I'm not even fucking kidding. Um, you know, when we need pace, we turn to a woman in her 30s, and she roasts 19-year-olds who are there because of their pace. Like, it's impressive. um, and so, I mean, uh, there's a lot to celebrate here. And I hope that everyone will uh, not view this as like a step back, but like just this is the level we're at. Um, we're a team that, if we have a decent season, we win our we win our division and we go to the conference playoffs. And then if we get some breaks, we can go further. Um, and but a lot of it has to do with who scores the first goal. And they did this year, and we're out.
Indeed. Adam, what about you, man?
Yeah, interesting what Sean says about the way it just seems like it seems like they've given Danny an opportunity to kind of grow with the team as well, which is that's cool to see, definitely. Um, and I'm excited to see Danny take the reins and just see what she can do with her team because it is
Right.
her team. It is going to be her team now, and
Well,
it's gonna be cool to just watch that.
it's hard to fight the nagging feeling that Dave is so nice that he won't be sufficiently ruthless, you
Yeah,
know?
it
And
always it.
like I don't that's like I think that's just prejudice. I don't think there's anything really to that. Um, but it's hard to shake the feeling nonetheless.
It always
Like Dave,
seemed
I
like
love
yeah.
you.
Yeah, it always seemed like there was a yin and a yang to them.
Right.
They complemented each other very well just
Totally.
because they
Well,
came from,
and the thing is,
two.
I think it might be that won't go away. I could see Dave being like, the guy who he's not the manager anymore. He's just a guy who happens to be at most of the practices, you know? Like,
Yeah.
Mhm. And the and also too, a lot of that fire sometimes that I've seen from the sidelines this year, even like Dave, calm as there. Danny still calm a little bit. A lot of the fire I've seen on the sidelines this year has come from Nate, which is good because he's energetic, right?
yeah,
Like I
yeah.
think, and that's good for like in a positive way too. I'm not saying like on that, but he's the one to like be a little bit more passionate to see whether it's a spark or if he sees an opportunity that the team can shine.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, the staff is pretty great, and I hope that you know, I hope that folks aren't down on this. This is that's what I'm a little bit worried about is that people will be like, oh, it's not growing, and they'll start to wander away. It's like, you know, stay in this.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I'm not seeing this as a down year. I see it as, for me, I see it as City having to play through an unfortunate set of circumstances when it came to availability. And in many ways, you are beholden to that availability that these players have
Yeah, it's
to the club, and
I'm
it's
curious what the how much that costs, how much that kind of lack of stability costs a team.
sure,
Um, because like we've kind of had a conclusive, it seems to me, sample over the last couple of years that adding that elite talent does make a measurable difference in the outcomes. Like
absolutely.
you're competitive without it, but you're ventilating people with it.
Hmm.
And um that competitive like spine gets supercharged by just one or two players who can force play and can who whose influence over the match is outsized. And when you got a team that's like 11 equal folks, even when they're all like superstars, it tends to it gets muddled. It's confusing. You don't know who's like, you don't have an organizational principle, you
Hmm.
know? Uh, so it's just a lot of like kind of like who's in space. It's the kind of thing where you have a long possession and you wind up teeing up, the shot shy defensive midfielder, and she shanks it from 23 yards. And you're like, wow, we just had the ball for like 45 seconds, and that's what we created out of this.
Now,
You
and I
know,
would and I would love to, and I hope we get the opportunity at some point, at least before the next season starts, to bring these questions or bring this question to Danny and Dave too. I mean, because I
like I just feel like
I'm sure I'm sure he's
we're
gonna have a
we've got a lot of creative people and smart people.
sure.
But also this is the same kind of reasoning that like tech bros utilize, right? So I think we need to remain like cognizant of our own limitations here.
Oh, sure, but I want to know, because I mean it seems apparent that that there is that extra talent that we get. We have the kind of like that core group of women that's been with us for a few years now.
Right.
But then, we talked about, some of those added pieces like the Sophia Romines, the Childers, the Lily Jacobs.
See,
Is there,
I
is,
think Kate Childers has been around a little longer than that, I think.
sure, yeah.
So I don't really think of her as like a bolt on. Like I'm talking about basically the attackers who, the youth group attackers who Lily and Aubrey and Sophia. Those are the players that have kind of that like put that jolt of lightning through the team last year, and the lack of whose lightning shows in these matches where you're really struggling to create looks. I'm like, okay, so we're talking about big time, like the what's her name? Samantha Urbach. Like she was
Mhm.
the Big East Freshman of the Year, um, for Xavier, uh, and like scored a shitload of goals for Xavier. So she's of like a high level, uh, she's a high level player. Um, Xavier's in a good league, and yeah, she was the best freshman. So that's who scored the goals against us, right? It like it's hard not to draw the conclusion that you know there is a stratus of players that are kind of difference makers, and if you have one, then you're going to over time be more successful than if you do not. And we need to figure out how to have some of those.
That
Uh,
would and
con-
that would be my question to Danny. I mean, is there a way to hold on to these certain types of players longer so they're not,
right. Yeah,
you
like
know, I mean,
like okay, why in the world does Minnesota need Kate Childers like 3 weeks earlier than Xavier needs Samantha Urbach? Like, what the fuck? Like,
yeah.
you play the same schedule. And like,
Yeah.
is this just manager ego shit? Like, we're all gonna spirit bond out, and we're all gonna take ayahuasca together or something. Like, what the fuck?
They played in July last year.
It's
They were in the playoffs for us.
right. Like, why? I just, I am, yeah. When I saw the lineup, I was like, oh, this is gonna be tough. Like, King's Hammer's good. They got good athletes. We're gonna in the attack, we're gonna be kind of athletically outmatched. Um,
Great on the
and
press.
and yeah, it makes a big difference. You know, the it you almost like Hannah. She is a fantastic player and incredibly tricky and clever um, and full of ideas. Um, but she's not very fast, and she's not very tall. So she needs to be paired with somebody who can do a lot of running. Um, so that kind of limits your options. Um, you got to have somebody who's like full of running alongside Hannah, or your entire attacking line is kind of stationary, and that's going to be difficult to make it any kind of pressure happen on the flanks, which is your weak spot in this very narrow formation. So uh, you know if you're setting up the team to get the most out of Hannah Crum, you probably play like a 4-2-3-1 with her in the 10, right? So she can play kind of like a um what do they call that? The hook in Gaunch. Um she can play like a hook, and sort of drift into little pockets and create that, make that one like creative pass that sort of unlocks the thing. Um, so I don't know. I'm getting lost in the weeds here. Um, but like it was I looked at the lineup. I was like, whoa, like this is going to be like we're going to need to have some fortune, I think. And we did not get any. So
I think my closing thought on this is this was a compared to last year, when you look at the whole of the division, the fact that the division went down to the final day. I think the even with Ann Arbor, I think step levels up. I think Kalamazoo was a very, very difficult matchup. I do wonder, like if Union had a full strength squad, the majority of that would they have also been right up in there near the end of the race too? Because I think like those were two very difficult matches that we had against them. So my point is this: I think the quality of the league as a whole, top to bottom, even when we played Toledo in the second game, I think was a much stronger division this year. And that's
Yeah.
with, you know,
Yep.
two less games compared to last year. So, and I think even in the playoffs this year compared to last year, I think you had four. I think Aurora was the they're the ones that got out of it, and then you saw like just how dangerous King's Hammer can be if you give them an opportunity. And Riveters gave Aurora a fight, so I think it's for this area of football that we play, I think it's for us to win the division and get as close as we did, despite not being full strength. I think is a good sign.
Yeah. I think, we'll like, I would like to be able to, I wish there was some way to track this, because I think it may be that the reason that North Carolina under 23s wins is because none of their players get yanked because they're all on pro under 23 contracts or something, you
Right.
know? Like they actually, have control over the player and can keep a steady group together. I don't know. I mean, maybe that's not the case. Maybe they're dealing with players, getting pulled back to North Carolina or wherever, Duke, and um, maybe that's maybe that's super hard for them. I have no idea. But it seems like a situation that makes this league hard to follow and hard to like handicap and hard to invest in the storylines when you know that like everybody's kind of looking over their shoulder to for the other thing they're going to do. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so there may be value in hewing more toward like we're going to go with the women who are able to commit to being here. Um, I don't know. And like I don't know what the answer is. It's tough because like I say, you need the talent. You also, you need the buy-in and it like trying to see how you're gonna like there's no simple way to move this forward, it seems
I,
to me. We're gonna have
I,
to be creative.
I think one of them is like you just mentioned it, Sean, is having a level to go up to. I think I mean that's where you're going to get some more of the commitment from, in my opinion, is if there is a level within the system to move up to work towards. And I'm talking about, we've talked about it before, and it's that professional side.
Yeah.
The downfall to that though is, I mean, you're going to see you would see this USLW league team kind of fall into the same place that the men's two team is, where it's not really promoted, it's not really talked about too much because all of the attention is going to be on
On
the
the
professional
pros.
side.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so I mean, I mean,
Yeah.
I
It's
so
hard to yeah. I think that we're probably going to stay within this in this league and in this same basic framework for a while. I'm curious whether I really thought that the NIL stuff would mitigate against the kind of high-handed, demanding like this is when we're reassembling shit that we've been getting from college coaches and like, look, I get you gotta make a time, but like it doesn't need to be like the middle of July, dude. Like,
Mhm.
you
Middle of
don't have
June even.
you don't have a match until like the end of August. Um, like what are you doing here? Like I just don't get it. Like um and okay, it's tough because like that's the thing that dominates the uh, planning. Um so yeah. Maybe in the future I'll start bugging the sports information departments and figure out when the return dates are for all these different things so we can at least track it on a board, know that like okay, Minnesota is fucking early, June 19th they're going to Jerusalem as a team building exercise. It's the worst idea ever. um uh, you know, whatever. I don't know. I'm getting more dispirited as I think about it.
Going to
So
Let's go to the
Jerusalem.
men. I can't be mean about the women, right? Because like they're not professionals, and I really love the team, and I don't have anything to be mean about really. But I don't feel good about the weekend, and the guys gave us plenty of reason to be mean. So can we
yeah,
switch?
so I
Cameron.
think you know what, the sparks have been lit, and time to light off some fireworks. Um, well done, women's team, on the season that was. I know the indoor season is going to come up incredibly quick,
Right.
so we'll get ready
We'll,
to
we'll
talk
like
about
take a
the real.
nap, and it'll be like time.
Adam's gonna turn fully gray or even white if he hears that when the start of the indoor season is gonna be, similar to like September last year when we first heard what we thought what the season was gonna be. So it's gonna come out quick, folks. So be on the lookout. Kudos to all involved in Detroit City FC women's side this year. Hard fought season, onward and upward. All right, we got to go full pain now. Let's go to what took place in California. Saturday night going into Sunday morning. Detroit City FC's men, 2 matches unbeaten. Travel to historic Oakland Coliseum. Take on an Oakland Roots side that has been positive results. Still bottom in the Western Conference. Maury Donor, who was transferred from Detroit City FC to Oakland Roots maybe about a month now because of how fast time's flying in the starting lineup. This was a matchup that had a lot of, to me, questionable things. Questionable starting 11. Questionable approach with how static we looked. Um, Questionable personnel choices when they were substitutions in particular. And just moments of we have questions. How the first goal was conceded, the foul that led up to the second goal, the own goal. So I'm going to hand it off to Adam to start things off. And the reason why I'm doing this tonight is because I saw that in one of our group circles, he was still up and chatting awake. So we did one of our usual calls after something like this. One of the first words I think I said in the conversation to Adam when I knew he picked up, I asked, in his opinion, was this worse than the Pittsburgh match a few weeks back? Which we have gone on and we've said multiple times on this podcast that we
Yeah,
thought it was one of the worst Detroit City FC performances ever, men's
possibly.
or women's.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I specifically said it's not the worst performance, the worst offensive performance.
Okay.
Worst offensive performance. And this is definitely challenging for that.
Yeah. And so I asked Adam the question. Adam, you had an answer then. A few days have passed. Do you still feel the same way that you did? And what was your answer? And now I'm lighting it to you to fully light off the fireworks.
It's hard to look past it. It's hard to look past it considering who you were playing. Now they were going to the West Coast and they're playing a West Coast team, and I understand travel and everything like that is involved there. But my God, um, there was absolutely nothing to take from that game that you can construe it as a positive. It was anything that you tried to that you could have built off of from that from the win against Miami, the league win against Miami, and then the Jägermeister Cup win over Hartford, um, was completely wiped away over that, with that performance that we saw. And I tweeted out that Maury Donor couldn't break this starting 11. He couldn't crack the surface with this starting 11 that we saw the other night, because Maury Donor didn't look spectacular against City, but it seemed like a guy that could certainly be useful to some extent with this current City squad right now. So that's just something that I didn't understand with his lack of presence when he was with Detroit City FC. And I mentioned it too. I wrote a little recap after the game, and something has to give with this team right now. Something's got to give, because we can't keep doing this. And I know people kind of look back, supporters kind of look back and, think that, oh, well, this is something that always happens with this team. So it's in some ways it seems like they're making it excusable, it's not. We don't have to deal with this. And I want to make this abundantly clear to everyone out there. This team hasn't looked good since April, you guys. And we are July 8th right now, and this team
Mm-hmm.
hasn't looked good. This team has one league win since the beginning of May. Since May started, they have one league win. That last league win, aside from the Miami one, came in late April.
April
So
19th to be
it,
exact.
yes. So I mean, like I said, something has got to give with this team because it is July, but it is July. I mean, you have to sit here and think about what your thresholds are when it comes to what you want to do this season. Is it next weekend? Is it the end of July? Because when it's the end of July, all of a sudden we are into August now. We are into August, and that game that we saw the other night gave us zero. I don't think it gave anybody any hope that things are on the up here, or something that we can be like, okay, well, let's take this and we can build on that because there was nothing to take from that game that you can absolutely build on. And again, you look at some of these issues, and I know, and I don't want to hark on the guy too much, but if this team, and maybe this is the thing with them right now, maybe it is the injuries, I don't know, but if I'm going into next week's game and I have an opportunity to make one change specifically, I don't understand how you could put Michael Bryant back out there. I don't. He was responsible for both of those goals that happened the other night. That deflection, I'm sorry, I know it was an accident, and I know that I don't want to get on him too much for it, but that deflection back out of the 18, right back to the Oakland attack, set that goal up. And I'm sorry. I mean, smarter people out there with the game of soccer may be able to tell me otherwise, but I know in hockey, you have to mind those rebounds. You have to watch where those rebounds are put. And if you put it right on the laces of the other team, then they're going to be able to capitalize off of that. And then the second one, which in my eyes was unforgivable, that at that time, the push to the back, which resulted in that free kick, which resulted in the goal, which put everything out of reach for you. There was no coming back from that. It was just a stupid play, stupid play. That just, like I said, it put things out of reach for you, and it was frustrating to see. And again, if I'm the head coach, if I'm Danny Dicchio, and I have the opportunity to take Michael out of that game, then I am doing it. Because right now, this team looks like utter dog shit right now, and you can't have players putting yourself in positions like that to lose those games. Because once that second goal was scored, it was over. It was over. There was no coming
Yeah.
back from it.
Well,
And
there's like what, 5 minutes left, and
Yeah.
the attack has looked like they got like soul drained before they came out on the field, and like and also that they were completely unfamiliar with one another.
yeah,
I mean,
so
ugh,
yeah, and I mean, like I said, something has to give with this right now because they're in a spot right now where they're still in a playoff spot right now in the East, which is
Went down a
crazy to
spot
think.
though with Pittsburgh beating the Western
Yes,
leaders on Friday.
yes, which
I
is
mean,
crazy to think about.
right.
And but you've got to look at your season right now and think about what moves have to be made. Because if the goal is to make the playoffs and do everything once you get into that spot, then the time is now. it's not a month from now. It's not 2 months from now. The time is now to evaluate what this team is and what changes need to be made so you can continue to not just stop the bleeding, but put yourself in a better position as the season goes along. And whatever those moves are, I don't know. I don't know, but something has to be done right now with this team
Yes.
because right now it's they're not just spinning their wheels. They're bleeding out right now. And it's sad to see. It's frustrating to see. Um and it's not something that we should have to see because we've seen how this team has played in the beginning of the year.
A team
So I
that
don't know.
concedes goals like Oakland Roots has a lot early on in the season.
They
And
made the Oakland Roots look like
yeah,
look like a top half of the table team.
Yeah.
and this
I
is
mean,
where the personnel questions to me come in. You don't have your speedster, your creation players in Atis Joff playing. You don't have Haruki Yamazaki. You're playing Michael Bryant and Matt Sheldon. So you're extra static in those moments in that situations. At halftime, your first sub is you take out Connor Rutz, who in my opinion, as Adam, you've mentioned this in our chats, it should be Rutz maybe as a late sub, but you put Guanzati in for Rutz. So then when you do put Jufon in the 67th minute, 12 minutes after you concede a goal, you take off your guy, your leading scorer on the team, and Darren Smith. And then you put Marcel, then you take off your second best creative player in that moment, in Jesse Cedeno. You take him off for Marcello Polisi.
yeah, you're steadily degrading the quality of the attack.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Um,
Yamazaki
well,
off for
okay,
job.
so
So
okay.
yeah,
So let me jump in. I think that Guinzotti for Connor, you could argue that on his day, Guinzotti obviously is a more gifted attacker than Connor Rutz,
yeah.
but today they're pretty much in push, and Connor certainly, no matter how much effort Guinzotti puts into his defensive work, he's not at the level of Connor Rutz defensively because Connor Rutz is like close to elite defensively as a forward, right?
Bulldog.
Just hounds people, like smart, like no, like he's been doing it for years now, and he's really good at it. And Guinzotti, does get in there, and like he works hard, but he doesn't quite have the same. He doesn't have the same brio that he just doesn't. He's not as quick, not as big. So the pressure doesn't come off quite as devastatingly. Um, yeah, and then every other move is like literally a downshift. Like Darren Smith, okay, well, you got a creator, but so now you've swapped. Now Guinzotti is the finisher, and Ates is the creator. But have they worked together a bunch? Like I don't know. Um, I don't think they've gotten a lot of minutes together. And I mean, like okay, so the XG for this was hilariously the Roots got two goals on 0.08 XG, so less than a tenth of an expected goal for Oakland Roots in this match. But City weren't that much better. I think they were at like 0.37 or something like that. So another match where they were more likely than not to be shut out. Um, and that is in the same neighborhood as the match we were discussing earlier. So these are the Pittsburgh match, and these are similar outcomes. And to me, it looks like they were static offensively. We struggled to get into the final third at all. We just didn't. We have regressed in every way with the ball. Um, since over the last 2 months. The players look indecisive and scared. I don't know, um, who knows where love goes, right? But like clearly, this is the kind of reversion you lay at the feet of a manager, right? Like when a team improves week on week, that's the manager that gets greased, and likewise, a different version of getting greased. You're getting greased now. Um, the Mike Turco watch. He did predict that they were going to be singing "You'll Be Sacked in the Morning" if we don't play well against Hartford. And honestly, at this point, fair enough, because this was like to lay an egg like you did against Pittsburgh. Okay. Um, all right. Well, who knows what happened in the locker room, right? Like, I mean, we looked completely stunned and like we've been debuffed in some way. And then we we go out against we see the same thing again, like what, 3 weeks later, 2 weeks later? Like,
Yeah.
oh my God. Like this is a new level for us. Like this is we're consistently performing at this level. And what this level is the worst offense in the USL championship. That's the new level we're showing out at. The worst. The worst. Okay. So it's not, it seems to me, from lack of ability. This is a roster that is reasonably expensive.
A lot more
Um,
expensive than 2023 when we had this problem.
right. Now, losing Ben does suck. Um, but it's not like he was riding a wave of dominant form and now it's soul crushing to lose, the magnetic center of our offense. I mean, he was part of us kind of being really bad, and now we've got even fewer guys to be really bad together. Um, uh, and Polisi was a guy that we kind of had question marks around when he came in, like about his level and the level he played at, and you have to say at this point, like you're getting to halfway through the season, and every one of those question marks is borne out by his play. Like he just doesn't look up to it.
That's a pretty
Um,
sweet header, though, Sean,
yeah, I
on
mean,
the own goal.
they contrived to fashion a bullet header into to seal it, um, and
We're
put Oakland in the awkward position of getting 2 goals on less than a tenth of an XG. Um, but that's the kind of awkwardness anyone will go with. Um, like I am shocked by the levels we're showing right now, and um,
if I'm
I think it starts in the midfield. And I'm gonna stop talking. Go ahead. Go. I can just keep like, kind of ranting for like until like 11:30, and it's like a 3-hour podcast. So I'm gonna stop.
I feel like the hot topic discussions obviously kick back into full gear after the Oakland match. And honestly, compared to a couple of years ago when we started to really, this is like us, it just reminds me a lot around this time in 2023 when we were having lackadaisical 1-0 after lackadaisical 1-0 before the 1-0s became 3-1s, 3-0s, 5-0s, back-to-back 3-0s, bus trips from hell, all that shit. Um, but this time, a lot more investment and resources have been made into this squad, into this coaching staff, into the type of players that we are getting in. But the performances look like 2 years ago. And you have a group of players out there that looks defeated. They look scared and all that. And is that because they are in, so scared of the mighty Oakland Roots? Or are they just not clicking? They're not spirited. They're not playing for the shirt. They're not playing for the team. They're not playing for each other. And it doesn't seem like it's a fun vibe, and it doesn't seem like it's going to be clicking. We're at the halfway point
Right.
now.
I
And
mean,
so this is the tough question that I'm going to ask. We are in a situation as a club where we are in a transition period as in we're about to begin groundbreaking on our future, something we own, something that a capacity is double of where we're currently in. which in the form that we keep playing in, we're going to struggle to not just fill the damn thing, but get close to 5.5, 6,000 and a 7,000 plus thing. And you get what I'm saying here, eyeballs and hope and everything in particular, butts and seats and all this stuff like that. And the resources you're putting into this team. If I'm anybody involved in front office or the ability to realize and say, hey, this isn't working. Are you going to make that decision to realize, hey, this is not working, we need to do something? And if so, when do you decide that, hey, it's not working, we got to fix this?
I mean, you know, that is something that the ownership group has to decide. And I'm sure it's not any fun to
No.
have those conversations. Yeah, I don't have any insight into how they're feeling about it. I mean, I'm sure they're not feeling great about the results and the level right now. Um, but I have no idea whether they're feeling like any dissatisfaction with like Danny at that level. You know what I mean? That they would like because I mean, it's going to cost money to fire him, right?
Yep.
So and presumably you probably have Trevor take over as an interim while you look for the next guy, right? Um, if that's what you decide to do. But it's an expensive thing to do. In England, they call it gardening leave. Usually, basically, you have to honor the contract. Like you're still paying them. They just don't work there anymore. Um, so I don't know, maybe if it's different in the United States or whether the contracts are sort of structured the same way since you're competing for the same pool of of people. You know what I mean? Like uh, the place that does the most for its people has a competitive advantage, and that tends to drive things in a competitive uh, environment like football. Um, so I don't know what they're feeling like, but as a supporter, um, just the who is concerned with the football largely, like I have hated the way they've played these two matches, and it's not like just generally the form has dropped dramatically, and it it has happened at such a pace that suggests either that we're being found out uh tactically and are failing to adjust, or that there is an actual real dip in the confidence and connectedness of the players since the early part of the season. And like, so to me, the narrative that makes sense is because I see it looks to me like we are adjusting things. You're always kind of stuck trying to figure out whether what like is adjusting going to fuck things up more than more like do you need to favor stability or do you need to tinker, right? And uh I don't see that like they're just kind of getting tactically overwhelmed. It looks to me like the players have come off the boil like excessively, and even in the best situations, you expect a couple guys to everybody's going to go through poor cycles, but when everyone's going through a poor cycle, something is going on.
Yeah.
Um, and uh, I think there are probably stern inquiries about to happen, or have happened. And I have no idea what the outcome of those inquiries were at this point. But you know, like this is the second really bad performance in less than a month And the second kind of performance that you might expect from a team that actively wants its manager fired. um,
Team
now I
that's
don't
made
I don't
changes.
I don't
Like,
know if that's the case, but okay, so like we're talking about more Adam, you were talking about Maury Donor, and like I've got Maury's numbers up. So we started Matt Sheldon at right wing back. That is Maury Donor's natural position,
Mhm.
and Matt's. Uh, Matt made 28 passes, and completed, I think. Well, I'm trying to do the math in my head here. 22. Uh, Maury had made 39 passes and completed 90% of them. He's basically a much more attacking player than Matt Sheldon. Matt is naturally a defender. He gets involved in duels. Maury really doesn't. Maury plays like a possession winger. Um, what I'm saying is that Maury presents a really interesting contrast to everyone else on the roster in that position. Um, and it's a position that, while he's a bit of a specialist, he's a specialist in a position that we have started every match save one. We've had a wing backs. We started a four once, I think. So like we he's a specialist in that position. Now maybe you're like, okay, I'm not happy with his defense. Okay, well, what are you going to do when the offense conks out? And you need somebody who can really create from that position, because that's what Maury Donor does. And what we got now is that we're hoping Matt can like surprise him with his quickness. Um, like, why are they surprised? Because he's 32. Um, like,
not only that, we had somebody who was providing creativity in addition, in Haruki Yamazaki, who's all of a sudden now getting
yeah,
sparse minutes here and there.
right.
What
Well,
did he
and
do?
like,
We don't know.
yeah, the younger players, it seems like just don't get a chance to start consistently. There's zero chance for them, except for Alex Villanueva, who is left-footed. So, um, that ability nails him in the lineup as our left wing back. But I have a feeling that if Danny had a 28-year-old league average left wing back on the roster, Alex would be struggling for minutes the same way that Ates and Haruki are. Um, and we're talking about, okay, so if you sit Michael Bryant, like Stevie, I think had his procedure yesterday. I haven't heard about it, but I don't think it was the kind of thing that's anything but fairly routine. But it means he's going to be out 5-6 weeks.
Yep.
So
Reese Williams knocked up right now, not right there
yeah,
with a knock.
knocked up.
Not knocked up. He's
A knock. Sorry.
Hey,
End of the
I was,
night, man. We've been going for a bit. My words are off.
yeah, yeah. Reese had a calf strain. I think they think he should be healthy this
The
week.
farthest for being knocked up.
Right, right. Uh, uh, what was I saying? I'm sorry, I just kind of lost the.
Steve being out,
Oh, Stevie's out. So if you sit Michael, you're starting Dom at right center back. And maybe
or
that
you
would
put
be
Sheldon there.
yeah, I guess. Um, I mean, he like okay. So if you play Matt Sheldon, honestly, I think you probably play him like he did in that Open Cup game where he was kind of a libero, and played in the middle, because he was pretty good at that. And then you still have and you have Devin and Shane, kind of minding the store behind him. That might be interesting.
the,
Um,
the the frustrating thing about this though, Sean, is they had Maury Donor here. They didn't have to get rid of him until they had to get rid of him because
The
assumptions
excitement
being
about Maury Donor too before
well,
the move.
because assumptions being made that he wasn't getting playing time. Um, and again, that's incredibly frustrating because
right.
you could have had that contrast. You could have had a Matt Sheldon type of player in addition to you could have had Matt Sheldon in addition to Maury Donor, which you had at the beginning of the season.
Right.
And then you lose Maury Donor for essentially
Well,
nothing that would help on
this
the
is
pitch this year.
the challenge of being a manager in the in in these higher levels is you can't alienate players willy-nilly. The days of being able to just sternly, stare people down all day, like it's not really there, dog. Like that's not what we're doing. And that's not what the players are doing. So um like the whole thing is you got to keep the players on side. You got to keep the players, together and working together and believing in each other. And um, it doesn't seem like the way you make this work is by getting them to bond. Like if you're going to be this way, you have to get them to bond together against you. But you have to be absolutely rock solid in your own like sense of yourself. And you also have to have like a kind of a core of kindness to let them know that like you are doing this out of love, right? Um, and it just some aspect of those very complex things is not hitting. And what we've got instead is like everyone kind of discouraged and you can't fire all the players. Um, that's the tough thing. Like, Devin looks so frustrated to me. Like he is like getting into so many challenges. His duel numbers are higher than ever. And I don't know whether that's because Alex is like just attacking and leaving Devin alone, or whether I think it's more like Devin is sort of, looking for a fight. Like he just wants to try to turn things around. And so he's, kind of roaming around looking to win the ball in a way that's not like cohesive to the shape sometimes. um and like I don't know, man. Like it just looks
So I'll
bad.
ask.
And like I think like what really needs to happen is everyone needs to play 12% better. But the problem is like there's reasons they're playing worse, right? We don't know them exactly, but it's suspicious.
So two league matches coming up because I'm not going to ask the question about Westchester and Jägermeister Cup on July 26th. Um, Hartford coming into Keyworth. We already know what they can do with their pace and attack. Pittsburgh Riverhounds, 6 days later, they beat New Mexico United, league leaders at Highmark, 4th of July night. They're ahead of us now via, I think, because of wins and goal difference. You got Indy and Miami breathing down our necks in the playoff spot. Rhode Island behind them, Legion
Like
behind them.
I don't like I feel like doing the what's his ass the playoffs, that
Oh,
that bit.
Oh, Jim Mora. You
Yeah.
as an India as somebody coming from Indiana, you would
Okay,
bring up a
look.
reference from an
Okay,
Indianapolis
listen.
Colts guy,
Listen.
even though you hate
I've
the
explained
Colts.
this many times, but I don't associate with the Colts. They
I
moved
know
there
you're
when
a
I was
Bears
like
guy.
16. Fucking Colts. They're like a new team. Fuck you. I mean, yeah, sure they've been there 40 years, but whatever, bro. Like, I grew up rooting for the Bears. I mean, we just grew up rooting for Chicago teams. There were no Indianapolis teams. What, the Indians, a AAA ball club? Like, okay, sure. Like, you go there on like hot dog night and get a bunch of cheap hot dogs.
But playoffs, we can't even win a game right now.
Yeah, exactly. Like like our form. Like I'm sure that there are people who are out there like just keep it cool, bro. Yeah, okay, probably, sure. Like we're gonna dead cat bounce at some like we can't play this badly all the time. So and Hartford is a team that has traditionally struggled against us. So you know,
Are we unbeaten against us in the league, though?
yeah. So I mean, we'll see. Uh but I mean, like it is concerning. It's very concerning the way they're playing. The midfield, Lai is just like he's not really going to be the player we're thinking of, for like 6 weeks. And ideally you're really probably playing him like 30-35 minutes, like you're winning a match and you bring him in, and he can really, he's taking a lot of load, it seems to me, like pretty quickly. Um, and he doesn't look physically the same player right now. You know what I mean? He's just there's no snap and bite to him. And that's the kind of that final 10% that you gotta just that's hard to get to. Um, but he'll get there. Um, Everyone
So
else is so limited. You know what I mean?
yeah.
Like Ryan Williams, I love the dude, but like ideally he plays in a three-man midfield. I just don't think he covers quite enough ground to be left as the lone man back in front of the three. Um, eh, you know, but who you gonna like? Jay Chapman is like he can shape a ball, but he kind of like olays a lot of duels, you know. Um, and like frankly, to me, it would be like youth time. Like, all right, well, we're looking like shit. So Haruki's starting at right wing back, and we're encouraging him to go kind of wander around and cut in follow the ball in midfield. And Ates is starting at left winger, um, and like that, and maybe Dom playing behind, Williams or Lai. Um, just get the kids in there a little bit, like get some a jolt of wanting to. Um, but we'll see. Maybe the real solution is just to get older and slower.
So of these next two league matches, because I don't know if we're going next week, how many points do you think we'll get, gentlemen?
Oh, I think three.
One.
I think we'll get three. I think we will beat Hartford. I think they'll come out and lay up a stinker that we can climb over. We'll basically get what Oakland just got.
I'm gonna say
Because I mean
one.
that was an epic stinker from Oakland. I mean they drew 5,000 to their big like chance at the Coliseum. That made me like sad. That like bruised my heart when I saw that. It was just like,
Yeah, that ship has sailed.
oh
That's
man, you
that
guys.
looks like Oakland. It looks like Oakland A's games there now.
Mm.
That ball swung on belted deep to left field
Like
and gone.
when they announced it, they're like, you envisioned them like really pounding tickets and getting like 25-30,000 people out. Um, and no.
Yeah.
No.
So, Sean, you have the win against Hartford, loss against Pittsburgh.
Yes. I think
Adam,
Pittsburgh
who's
I think Pittsburgh are going to get back in it. Like they're going to be in the running for a home playoff spot before the end of the season.
grinding?
Yeah, just they're good. They're well drilled, and um, that's gonna snuff out a lot of bad teams in this league.
What about you, Adam? You said one. Who's it against?
Uh, Draw Hartford, lose Pittsburgh.
Look at
I'm
us
going
here,
to.
like believing in Bob Lilly over here.
Again, I hate Bob Lilly too. Like
The
I
Steel
think that
the Steel Army's going
He's
to listen to
he's a
this
good
and they're going to like loop
he's a
this
great
thing.
nemesis, right?
he's
He's kind of like Vlad Harkonnen.
I just look at Bob Lilly and I'm like, well, what? I mean, I hear all this praise towards Bob Lilly, and that's great. I'm glad to see a guy getting praise, but I always ask, what has the guy done? What has he done?
I mean,
What did he what has he won?
I don't know. I don't look at it that way. Like, like um he's one of those builder guys who gets into a situation where, I mean, I don't think Pittsburgh's like laying out the cash. Um, but he's, done well with
What
limited
he has.
resources for a long time.
Speaking of
Um,
Dunwell has done more than
ooh,
Bob
yeah.
Lilly.
Well, okay. Like
I'm just
I'm sure we could Google Bob Lilly. We could like he's look up his Wikipedia. I'm sure he's won things, um, uh, because he's cunning, like he is. Like I got a lot of respect for him as like an X's and O's guy. Um, like he does devise. He's really good at breaking the good thing you do. So frustrating to
Okay.
play against.
3 for Spence, 1 for Adam. What am I going to say
Yeah,
here?
what you got, baby? Five?
when Garrett
Five
gets
is not
negative, he
possible.
gets negative, and I have a
He's
feeling he's
like
gonna throw out.
-3. We're gonna have points deducted for sucking.
There's times where I have to like bring Garrett back from the ledge because he's
I'm glad he doesn't call me then,
2023 has
because
made me a much
I'd
stronger.
be like grabbing him by the hand, like, let's go, brother, putting on Don't Fear the Reaper.
Oh, you've all seen me when I'm like down. I'm down. We lose to Hartford. We draw against Pittsburgh.
oh wow.
Oh, okay. So 1 point, but won the hard way.
Yeah, I think it's
God,
the because I can't pick us to lose to Pittsburgh. Ugh. Um,
I don't see how they win. I don't see how they draw against Pittsburgh after losing to Hartford.
I mean, it'll probably be
Like,
0-0, but
well, I mean,
still,
here's the thing. Like, I really think, like,
it's national television too, which means
is
it's
it
gonna.
is it like, okay, like there's even when a team is collapsing, like generally, like say the players are all kind of united against the manager, as one example of the way a team can collapse. Um, it's seldom like a literal conspiracy, right? They're not like meeting in a pub later to be like, you fucking hate this guy too, right? Like, they're coworkers. They all know they kind of don't like the guy, but like, what are you gonna do? Um, and at some point, as players, you start to worry that you're gonna like that this is gonna shit on your reputation, that it's gonna be hard for you to get jobs after this
Yeah,
if it does
100%.
so like when you put up stinkers, like there's a very strong tendency that the players will just pick it up on their own at least a little bit, like they don't want to be humiliated. They're not highly motivated, but sometimes I think that brush with like real collapse and failure does kind of like right the ship, but then what will happen is that will quickly degrade as like their you know um as the kind of negativity in the space like kind of keeps at them. So that it'll be like a little like cresting wave, like go up a bit and then down and up a bit and then down, and like um that's what the form will do if that's the situation, if there's kind of this ambient revolt happening.
7 p.m. Saturday, Detroit City back at Keyworth for the first of a few matches, hosting Hartford Athletic. And then Friday, July 18th on ESPN2, also 7 p.m., hosting Pittsburgh Riverhounds.
Yep.
Like I said, we're not going to talk about the Jägermeister Cup. That's a few weeks away. But yeah, let's see what happens. It could get better, right? It's got to get better, right? I mean, yeah, right? Yeah. Let's transition to some good news real quick, and then some closing thoughts. The Pride Raiser campaign of Northern Garter supporters concluded, even with the last final promotion ads that were done during Saturday's match in Oakland, uh, which Adam lost his ever loving mind when he saw that. Um, $2,227.69 pledged for goals, 17 goals for a total of $37,871 plus $600 from partners. So $38,000 threshold, at least Proceeds
Yay.
proceeds going to the fine folks at Ruth Ellis Center and all of the important work that they do to benefit the LGBT plus Q community. Um,
Yeah. More important than ever.
yeah,
Absolutely.
Environment.
so well done to everybody that pledged, all took part in events, everything like that. Well done. So in the end, see, we find there's even in moments of great despair, such as our like what we've seen on the field lately, we have moments of joy, of hope, somewhat that we can bring in like news of just talking about this past Pride Raiser and everything like that. Let's continue. Let's continue our thoughts. If anyone else has anything, Sean, I'll have you go first.
Um, I just want to say that I think I don't know. The other night I was listening to a podcast about movies, and um, I realized that um, Justin Theroux, who is he's an actor. He's like one of the leads of The Leftovers. He was just in an episode of Poker Face. Um, he's been a lead in a lot of things. Wrote Tropic Thunder,
Wow.
which, like, knowing him as an actor, like I know him a lot really from The Leftovers, which is extremely serious and like interesting and weird, but not, manic and funny at all. So people can surprise you. That's what I'm saying. I was just like, you got to be fucking kidding me. Um,
I saw that movie live and was like, holy, this is not what I was expecting. I wasn't expecting to laugh as hard as I was when I saw Tropic Thunder in 2008.
that was yeah. It is a movie that remains funny, where many of its era do not age well. So that's my
Dude.
thought. Yay.
Um, Adam, what about you?
Um, I'm sure I have something to say, but I can't think of anything right now. So,
Can
um,
you come back to me?
yeah, yeah, nothing for me tonight.
Um, this is probably where I'll do my um, moment of reflection, so to speak, time. Kind of similar in a way, probably to last week. This past Thursday, day off of work, so I slept in a little bit, but I woke up at around 8 in the morning or so, and I had a couple of texts on my phone, like blurry eyed. The first one that I saw was from a buddy James, and the second one was the chat Adam and Sean you were having in our group text, and it was about the same thing. And I'm sure many people know what we're going to talk about in the soccer world, and that is it's Diego Jota, Portuguese international footballer, played with Liverpool, who 10 days or so before that married his childhood sweetheart, mother of their three kids, home in Portugal, was on his way back to Liverpool driving because he had an off-season procedure that he couldn't fly back. Halfway did this route before there, traveling with his brother. Um, when tire puncture off the road and tragic accident, and a mother and father lose both of their children,
Yeah.
and gone at the age of what 28 was Diego Jota, and Andre Silva was 26, his brother.
Yep.
And it was one of those moments that to me shows. I talked last week about how this experience at Detroit City FC and us meeting through this and the relationships that we've had and everything that shows that a lot of things are sometimes bigger than football. And the moment of outpouring to see from outside of Anfield, where you saw clubs from like people from Everton sports, Everton players, people from like United supporters, everybody in that, and just the moment where this is bigger than loyalties to sport or anything at the end are thrown out the window in these moments when someone who had all around the counts of being an all around good dude.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, I woke um to Adam's text about Diogo, and I was like, what? And then like flipped over to open my social media and had like a million notifications uh from various, Liverpool things um talking about it. And you know, I guess one thing that I would say is that Liverpool they're a club that are kind of uniquely enmeshed in tragedy. Um, their sense of self, um, in some ways derives, at least in part, from the tragedies that they've overcome in the past. Um, and that has become, sadly, a point of banter. Um, you know, for uncouth dickheads of all stripes. Um, and it was really encouraging to see none of that around this. Um, Honestly, I kind of was bracing for it. And I didn't see any of it. It was, kind of a really remarkably universal outpouring of, regret and grief for the passing of this kind of universally beloved guy, I guess. Like, I mean, I knew him as a player, and I knew that he was popular within the squad. That he was, someone who helped helped bind the group together. Was kind of how he was often portrayed. That he was, part of the emotional um, heft of that group, and uh, so but I guess that was just how the guy was. He was just a super nice dude, and it uh, be kind to the people you love. Be
Yeah.
kind to everyone you meet, because that might be the last person you meet, right? Like, uh, being mortal is a whole thing, right?
Chase, and I think because of, as I think about it now, as someone who was almost 9, 10 years younger than me, loses their life, and in case of his brother goes, it makes me think so much more now
Yeah.
is,
He's literally half my age.
yeah,
Yeah.
is if you got people on your mind that you want to call, make the call,
Yeah.
say the things, do the things, because
Maybe not while you're driving.
yeah, but just because who knows, it's make the most of these moments while you have them, and be good to each other while you are in these moments, and things that are being good to each other. And for us, Sean Spence loves cat pics. Cat pics give him joy.
They do.
Send the cat pics to Skildskafing, SCYLDESCEAFING .bsky.social.
Wow, I think you nailed
Adams,
it.
Adams, I think, got the cat pics ready to go. Also, you're on Twitter and subscribe to the World's Words About Shapes Patreon, $3
Yeah.
a month. You can follow Adam at TMSNXAdam, .bsky.social, also on Twitter. Um, Detroit.themajorstv.com, where you can find all of our episodes, all of our links, including written content such as the editorial opinion that Adam wrote. Highly recommend checking that out as well. Post the matchup that was had on Saturday, as well as hit the like and subscribe wherever you check out any of the Majors TV, whether it's Make City Make Spence, Channel 451, the Molding series, any of that. Hit the like, hit the subscribe. And you can follow me, GM Comats, Twitter, Instagram, Discord, Blue Sky, GM, comats.bsky.social, channel 451. You can hit like them, 451 DET. They're going again next week, I believe. I'm sure they have some fun hijinks stuff ready to roll, especially after last weekend, depending on how this weekend goes. So, yeah, I mean, and all the Benny Hill and all that fun stuff from there. So yeah, we uh what we had here tonight, to my version of a Cool Hand Luke quote, is we witnessed somewhat failure on the football field to an excess, unless you were the two side. Congratulations again to them. May the good luck and the joy continue throughout this run that they're on. We commiserate the women for a season that was, and look forward to them playing again in indoor and all the future builds and progressions that the women's team brings. We have hope for the men's team ahead. We'll see what happens. But when the next time we gather, we'll update everybody on what takes place. So for Sean Spence, Adam Hernandez, Garret Comats here. Thanks for checking out another edition of Make City Make Spence. Be good to yourselves. Look after the ones around you. And we go onward.